Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim Lace here with me to take you through the week's happenings in the world of South African cricket. The SA20 ended in style, and we've also got some Champions Trophy preparations with the team that's not playing at the Champions Trophy, and 7 players only leaving a week before the tournament starts. So there's a lot to talk about, but before we do anything, Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, mate, despite the fact that my football team lost in the FA Cup. I'm all right.
The only sucky part about it, Tim, is that you guys can't go on warm weather training like my team for like a week and a half because, that's the only sucky part about it. But maybe they can go from today until like Friday or like Wednesday or something, and then they'll come back. But it's a weird thing. It's very weird. But sorry about that. My team lost in a Super Bowl badly. But don't let the score flatter you. It was a total annihilation. And it was the weekend of no three-peats. But before we talk about no three-peating, here we go. You can follow us on the Full Quota Pod on X. You can subscribe to the Full Quota Podcast on YouTube. And also, we've got the audio version on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hi to the audio family. They are coming through with comments, and we appreciate that. And then also, you can buy some coffee. Help us grow this podcast. Help us bring up more content, interviews, and all of that stuff at buymecoffee.com/Full Quota Podcast. Okay. We had an SA20 finale this week. It ended in beautiful style for those that live in Cape Town or those that are affiliated with the MI franchise. But I think the bigger news story was who was going to replace Anrich Nortje in the Proteas Champions Trophy squad. That team was announced. That player was announced, and it was Corbin Bosch, largely because of his batting. His bowling is, guys, I'll say it right now. His batting is great. It helps with the balance of the side. But as guys know, this fascination with absolute pace bothers me. So does that mean that if I bowl 140 but I'm a swing bowler, I can't make the side? Like that was my thing. Like I look at his brother and I'm like, his brother's a better cricketer, right? Across both disciplines. It's just he just doesn't bowl as fast as Corbin. But anyway, so he's there, and I wish him all the best. Hopefully he can continue to dazzle us with those things. He's just inconsistent every over. That's my only issue. And you'll see when we talk about the top bowlers in the SA20. He takes wickets, but there's an inconsistency there that I just don't like. But anyway, he can bat at 8 or 9 and give us much needed runs.
At the moment, you put a Proteas jersey on him, he excels. So let's focus on the positive.
That test match in Cape Town. No, there was no excelling there. That was like, oh, yes, this is who this guy's been for the last 10 years. And he's only had, effectively, 2 games in the tests and 1 in the ODIs. And that was the pink ODI. And he did well there, and we wish him all the best. But is that enough of a sample size? So my question is, right, if you're going for all-round option, right, go for an all-round option. Go for someone who actually can bat and give you something with the ball. I wouldn't have minded going with the George Linder, Tim, because as I've always said, I want South Africa to play with 2 spinners. Yes, they're the same in Linder and Maharaj, but one gives you something with the bat that neither Vian, Marco has proven in SA20 that he can do something. But Vian in this format still averages 15. Marco is still green in this format, even though he's scoring in other formats. And we're doing this multi-format selection because I've got other stories from other people. But that's my thing. You're just adding another bowler who can bat a bit, rather than just being like, okay, who are the batsmen in South Africa that can bowl decently, right? And that changes the dynamic of what we're looking for. But we needed to replace a pacer, and we decided to replace a pacer with an all-rounder who is not the best pacer that we have available in South Africa. I'd like to put a hand up for Lutu Supamla, but everyone's gonna come back and but Corbin in Lutu's also approaches international, right? And to a certain extent, it's kind of like, do these people even watch domestic cricket? Because I'm sitting there going, Lutu's had a great CSA 4-day series. He's had a resurgence season right now. Last year it was Oguhle Cele. He should have been in New Zealand. He wasn't. And so the question is, what are we looking at, right? It's great that Corbin can bat, but what's his primary job, right? Is he gonna? Because my issue is this: those middle overs are going to be horrible for us in thingy. And you're coming with a guy when the pitch is flat and dying out who bowls 150. He's not going to take wickets. He's just going to get tonked around the. We saw that today watching the Proteas play New Zealand. Those pitches are flat as pancakes, and you need a skill, and you need to take pace off. But nope, it's fine. We'll take Corbin. And Gwena's obviously going there as a traveling reserve. I don't want to see Gwena anywhere near that Champions Trophy team. Once we start again for 2027, he can play more bilaterals and do that. But yeah. Anyway, what do you think of the Corbin news?
No, I tend to agree. And your last point is salient, really, because Shukri, when he was asked about the expected pitches, Rob Walter, when he was asked about what pitches he's expected for the Champions Trophy, he pointed out that they don't expect spin. They expect the pitches to be like what we saw today against New Zealand: flat, true, and difficult to get wickets on. That's what they expect for the tournament. So your point about, and that is what my gripe with Corbin, on a pitch that offers nothing, I think he's going to struggle. I get the like-for-like replacement. I get that. I get the fact that he has ability with the bat. I get that. I get the fact that he's currently in decent form, although we didn't have a great SA20. But just generally, I think he's in a better space now, having got the green and gold. He's a better space. He's a slightly better cricketer. He knows what is expected from him. But I do worry. If all of the pitches are going to be like that, what we saw today, I am worried that he's going to be nothing for 86 and 10. I am worried about that. That is a problem for me.
Here's a question for me.
Yeah.
When I don't know, but I look at Andile Phehlukwayo and I thought that would have been a better replacement. A great bowler in the middle overs, takes a lot of wickets in the middle overs, can support Lungi and Giti with that. Obviously, the question then now is, can it be a direct replacement to Vian Mulder? Vian's batting average at this point in time is the same as Andile's. Like, there's no difference between the two players, and one is a better bowler, and that's Andile. Yes, Andile doesn't get used a lot domestically. I don't know why, what's going on. Even at the Proteas, like, he's got a lot of the thanks for coming awards. But I look at this tournament, and I look at the horses for courses, and I get you want to go Marco Kagiso Lungi. Right, I get that. But in the middle overs, who's going to take wickets? Who's taken the most wickets in the middle overs since 2019? It's Andy P. Right? It's Andy P. Then the next person is Shamsi. So, and Lungi's up there somewhere. But so my question then is, are we now moving away from Andy P? I understand his batting has been horrible, but Vian's not giving you much better. Marco's the one who's showing the promise. Vian is showing promise, but is that promise going to happen at the Champions Trophy? I'd rather place a price on getting wickets in the middle overs rather than necessarily what happened today. And when we're talking about what happened today, South Africa lost to New Zealand by 6 wickets. We got to about 304, which was woefully under par. 1. 2, the bowlers that were there were obviously Mihlali played, Ethan Bosch. They weren't the the frontline seamers who were playing in the SA20 final. So you expected that. But the one key thing that bothered me was you couldn't get wickets regularly. And in the middle overs, they just accelerated. They didn't slow down with the field out set very wide and everyone on the boundary. The scoring rate just kept on increasing and increasing. And that partnership between Conway and Kane Williamson just kept on growing. And you're sitting there going, who has the skill to bowl on a pitch that gives you nothing as a seamer? And there's two people I know who can. Well, Kagiso, outside of the frontliners. Kagiso can do it, but yeah, it's Lungi, because he's probably the most skillful bowler we have, and it's Andile. Those cutters, those knuckleballs, those change-ups that they do, that's middle over stuff. I don't think Vian's there. But what it's telling me, and what Corbin coming in is telling me, is that I think Vian's going to play a lot more with Marco and Kagiso as a four-pronged seam attack, or what is it? It's Marco, Kagiso. Lungi has to play now, and then you've got Vian. Corbin can't come straight into the 11 because you need someone in those middle overs with the skill. And yeah, it was just today was just telling. It was just frustrating because we can't get an 11 that's supposed to prepare for the Champions Trophy because 7 guys are coming in next week, 2 others are coming in on the 12th, and Junior Dollar got to play. Last time Junior Dollar played an ODI for South Africa was 2018.
Yeah, that's the nature of sport. There, it's not just for us. The nature of you constantly get guys that sign for one franchise, and then before that competition finishes, they sign for another franchise, and they leave mid-tournament. So that sort of thing happens all the time. So it's frustrating that we didn't have our A team today. Of course it is. Of course it's frustrating. But I look at it at the positives. So of those fringe players, and I sort of consider Britsky a fringe player because he's not a guaranteed starter at the moment. So you got your Britskys. I thought Ethan Bosch bowled well. I thought Jason Smith batted well before he got run out. Those fringe guys did actually do quite well. They did actually do all right. But what was most telling of today's game was when New Zealand under a bit of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
They were under pressure when spinning came on. When Chamsi and Sen were bowling together, that was the time when South Africa probably shouldn't have had any hope because it was still 200 for 1. But Sen got a couple of wickets in consecutive deliveries. There was a run-out chance of Phillips when he was on single figures. There was a sort of opening there. And those two spinners together bowled well, and they did find it a little bit difficult. Outside of the power play, they did not find pace difficult at all. It didn't matter who it was. It didn't find...
So then,
that was
the other answer is then Gorgeous George.
Yeah. It's
And here's the thing. He can bat at 7. So you have George at 7, you have Vian at 8, and you have Marco at 9. That looks like England to me. Right? With Moeen and Wokes and whomever other fast bowler can score runs.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. And it gives you variation in the squad. Taking 2 spinners, one of whom is Kesh, who can't necessarily give you anything with the bat, but Kesh would be there, right? And that's why I've always said 2 spinners gives you so much a variety and ability to move things around, especially now with Vian who can bowl, right? So, or even Marco, right? So you can go Marco, Kagiso, Lungi, then you can go George and Kesh, and then if you need another guy, you can go for another quick, right? Even a Corbin or whatever it is, right? So you go 6 and 5. You have your top 5, and then you have obviously George at 6 is a little bit too rich, but I put Vian at 6 in that case because he's actually batting decently. Today he batted really well. So you put Vian at 6, and then you go 7, 8, 9 with George, Marco, and Corbin, and that gives you variety, right? But my thing is, I don't need Corbin in this situation. I needed a George, right? Because I think George will give me more with the bat than what Corbin does. And I get he's had a great year, but you cannot deny what George Linder has done in the month of December with the bat and January. Yes, from a bowling perspective, he'll never be as good as Kesh. Yes, they are just alike. But does that matter? When we bowl, we trot out right arm seamers to the wazoo. And the only variation we have is now because Marco's a left-hander. But Marco's just like the rest of them. But look, you know what? Let's see what this team does. My worry is that they're not going to turn it up in the Champions Trophy, and as Rob was hoping. And yeah, but if Vian can bat like this, he can bat at 6. The only issue is if he's going to bat at 6, it messes up the top 6, because you want someone between of the 3 of Ryan, Temba, and Tony. Those need to open. I think Tony's going to be on the bench with Ryan and Temba opening. I like that attacking and whatever it is. Then you have Aiden at 3. I'd want Aiden at 3. Then you'd have Rassie at 3, Aiden at 4. There's no need to drop Rassie. And then you have 5 and 6, which is Klaasen and Miller. And then it puts you in a bind because you're still with 5 bowlers. And what we're saying is we're taking Corbin because he can bat, but of the 5 bowlers, are you going to take 4 seamers? Because I think if you do, Corbin's going to get attacked. Over and above Vian getting attacked in the middle overs. But you then have... So my thing is then, if you're going to go Vian and Marco, you're going to go Kagiso, that means you've got Lungi and Kesh. Which is a good 11.
I'm not necessarily worried about Vian in terms of his bowling in this tournament. But at the same time, I don't think he's going to get what Ndila used to do. First couple of overs, get a wicket. His first couple of overs, always get a wicket. I don't think Vian has that skill yet. I don't think there'll be games where they will just see him off. Nothing for 50. Teams will go nothing for 50, and they'll choose other people to target. They'll choose people like Corbin to target. So I don't see Vian getting smacked around in this tournament, but I don't see him being a wicket taker either. His thing is going to be batting. He's going to produce the goods for the batting like he did today. If he does that, we've got a chance.
At 7.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're going to talk a lot about the Champions Trophy. It starts next week, Friday. So probably next week with the One Day Cup starting, we will go into the Champions Trophy and have a look at that and see where we can and have this discussion again. But let us know what you're thinking right now about the Corbin's selection and also obviously the omission of one George Linder. Do we need to go with 2 spinners? Are we just the same old South Africa? Let us know in the comment section on YouTube. Let us know in the comment section on Apple Podcast and also on Spotify. We like to we actually answer them. We really do quite well. Tim does a great job at that. But sometimes I do too. But you can actually tell who's commenting and when. But anyway, that's why we're a great podcast, because we're both different. Okay. Let's go to the SA20. Ended off in style. At the Wanderers, they finally gave us a pitch that was a 200-run pitch. But however, the batters decided not to arrive in this game. In my Cape Town, getting to about 180, what was it, 186, 185. Some contributions from Ricks. And who was it? It was Ricks. It was Connor Estezen. David Brevis had a cameo. Lovely cameo from George Linder. Really, was a 200 run. It was a 200 strike rate. He did really well. And Richard Gleeson doing a really good job with the ball this tournament. I will no longer talk bad about Richard Leeson. What a bowler. Very, very good bowler. But you can see that Sunrisers didn't have Odnil Bartman, so they missed out on that. There were moments in that final where you thought the Sunrisers had to take it away from them. And when they just kept on getting wickets regularly, but then those last 5 overs of their bowling innings, it just fell apart there as MI Cape Town just kept on pushing forward. And it's the old adage of runs on the board. The question was, we didn't know how MI Cape Town would bowl. And the last time they bowled here, they didn't get a chance to bowl because the game was rained out. They were restricted for 140 by JSK, but you kind of thought Trent bowled Kagiso. Something could happen. But anyway, this is then what happened. Trent bowled and Kagiso gave you probably one of the most incredible opening spells you can ever see in T20 cricket. Trent was swinging it around corners. He took 2 for 9. It was the end of his figures. Kagiso took 4 for 25 in that game. And then Rashid Khan. And the thing about that MI team, Tim, is that you're trying to see off Trent and Kagiso. And then Rashid Khan comes off and you're like, oh, I don't want to lose my wicket to him. And to a certain extent, Sunrisers started off well. Tony did really well up top, scoring quite quickly at a very high strike rate. It was about 30 odd runs. Then he decided to fall to a sweep and get LBW. But it looked like it was going Sunrisers' way. And then Kagiso took the catch of the final. It changed it. You had Markram, you had Stubbs. They needed about 100 odd for about 50 balls. And Markram just played a drive to point, and Kagiso chilling there back at point, extending his right arm there and getting Markram out was probably one of the best things you could ever see in a final moment. And that's when I think the momentum changed for MI Cape Town, and then from that point on they just went home. It was a great final, deserved team. I think everyone says offense wins games, defense wins championships in all sports that do offense and defense. In our side, batting wins games, but bowling wins championships, and the best bowling side in the tournament finally went into MI Cape Town. A word on Paul for me. Paul just doesn't know how to win consecutive playoff games. Just that game, that qualifier in Centurion was just horrible. Luandre did well. Everyone else, you just looked at them and were like, okay, guys, like we don't know what you guys are doing. Anyway, Tim, how did you make of that final week and that final?
Yeah, look, I think at the end of the show, I'm going to go into what I think needs to happen in terms of improvement. Because I think it could be better as a spectacle on show. But saying that, it was a good final. Both teams were in it for, as you say, for most of the game. Sunrisers were in it. And as you say, I actually do think that my Cape Town were potentially 15 to 20 short on that particular pitch. It needed all the runs to get them to 180. But what's most impressive for me is this team. Okay, it's got Trent Bolt, it's got Rabada, it's got Rashid Khan, it's got Rickleton, it's got Russie. So they out and out international star quality. But at the same time, unsung heroes of this team have shone when they needed to. The last game, Jane Pete gets 1 game, gets 3 wickets. Potgieter has been outstanding in this tournament.
He's another guy who should have been considered for the Champions Trophy.
He certainly is an option. He's been exceptional. Connor Esther in the final. There's always been a lot of talk about him and his ability, and he's not necessarily been consistent. But making runs in a final, in a must-win game, that takes huge bottle. So, as much as we do have star quality, it's also relied on the other unsung heroes to pitch up and they have pitched up when they've played. That's been a huge, huge plus for Robbie B, I think, and his coaching. That everybody has played and everybody has participated and done really well.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, there was more of a squad effort and a team effort. And the thing for me that impressed me a lot about MI Cape Town is that they found their 11 very quickly. They stuck to it, and they just kept on going. Injuries moved people in and out, but the people who were on the bench were very ready. And that you could see, right? They managed to get a very strong top order. They've always had a strong top order. It was just straight after that, that middle order didn't. And obviously Devil coming through as a MVP-esque candidate for the tournament, and he won junior MVP or junior, youth? I don't know what that youth cricketer of the SA20, young cricketer of SA20. Yes, that's what it is. That's the correct nomenclature. And that was, I think, for me, was what got them over the line. Remember, throughout the beginning of the tournament, they kept on moving it up and down, and then towards the middle, they just kept him at 5, and that's kind of worked for them. Russie's resurgence was really good, but Russie's always been like this. I think getting Reza was such a coup for them to kind of, take out because they lost, who's that British guy? That English batter who now is captain of England's T20 side or ODI side.
Butler.
But anyway,
no,
not Butler.
Josh Butler.
No. The reason why I say he's captain now. Harry Brook. Yes, and he obviously didn't come through this time. Didn't have a great start. Sam Curran was gone. I thought the fact that they brought back Rashid Khan made sense. And it kind of was like this SA20 across the board. Everyone was focusing on bowling more than batting. And it's the reason why we got low scores. It's the reason why we don't have a century in the tournament. And it's the reason why we didn't have tight games, because these teams would bowl you out very quickly. And you could see if there was a massive difference between bowling attacks. You could see it. Paul had a bowling attack that could bowl in Paul. Everywhere else, they struggled. On the high field, that was my worry in the finals week, but I thought they had enough batting to get them over the line, especially playing at Centurion, but they couldn't. DSG, they only just had no Ahmed. They need to have a relook at that, but that's something else. But when I look at MI Cape Town and I look at the Sunrisers kind of felt, even after having lost the first 3 games, you kind of felt that the train was going to get on the tracks and it was going to start moving. The only issue I had was you can't allow those guys into the playoffs. They hadn't lost a game in the playoffs in SA20 until Saturday. And even on Saturday, they had it in their grasp. It's just that final 5 overs just was chaotic from them in terms of bowling. And then from a batting perspective, after setting a foundation at 60 without loss and obviously having a 50-run partnership up front, it just went downhill from there, and they just couldn't manage the pressure that was being applied, which is why I always say bat first in the final. I don't care what the conditions look like. I don't care. Runs on the board is the best currency you can have. And look, a team that was 20 runs less managed to win it on a supreme Wanderers wicket. But also batting first at the Wanderers this year has been favoring the team batting first rather than the team batting second. So you kind of felt that it was hoping it was going to be a close one, just wasn't close. But anyway, let's talk about the guys who actually did well in SA20 this year. We're going to start with the batting leaders. I'm going to read them out for our audio listeners. Luandre Pretorius, what a season for him. He finishes at the top with 397 runs, high score of 97, which is the highest score at the SA20. Nobody scored more than that. With a strike rate of 166. Rassie van der Dissen, 393, playing one less game than Luandre with a high score of 91 and a strike rate of 129. Aiden Markham getting 340 runs at a strike rate of 130, which is good to see from a Proteas perspective. Ryan Rickleton playing 8 games, scoring 336 runs at a strike rate of 178 is unbelievable. he is having the summer of his life. Ruben Hanman, Paul Royals, he also put his hand up, 333 at a strike rate of 128. He is someone you want to see in that T20 side going forward. Diego Brevis is another one, 291 runs at an average of a strike rate of 184. Faf du Plessis, as old as he is, 286 runs at an average of 138. Joe Root scoring 279 at an average of 140. It's good for Root because he's not seen as a T20 batter, but that strike rate, not average strike rate, is very good. Devon Conway from JSK, 272 at a strike rate of 113. And David Bedingham, 241 runs at an average of 119. Tim, when you look at this, you just look at Luandre and just it's unbelievable. He's should be walking into the Proteas side tomorrow.
He's got everything. He's got absolutely everything. I've been so impressed with him, and I'm impressed with him. And I've said this before in the previous podcasts, he is the most impressive batter that I've seen in the last couple of years in South African cricket. He has got everything. He's got composure. He's got the technique. He's got the power hitting. He's got the temperament. He seems to me to have everything within himself to go all the way. He was exceptional in the tournament. There's absolute no doubt about it. Sometimes stats only tell half the story. In this case, they tell you the entire story because he's been consistent throughout the tournament.
And the thing is it's that strike rate. It's ridiculous. It's what we've always wanted out of our T20 side at a national level. Is high strike rate batters, guys who look for boundaries, guys who rotate the strike, who make sure that who take away the dot balls out of their game. And Luandre's done that. Ryan Rickleton, same thing. Incredible strike rate. So to Diego Brevis, and I'm sitting there going, here's an opportunity. The next T20, I don't mind opening with Luandre, Ryan, and having Devalt in there somewhere. And then giving them a chance. Because my thing is this. That's what India have done, right? India have given their youngsters who play at a high strike rate the opportunity to build their international careers. And they went unbeaten the whole of last year. And then towards the back end of last year, they got more opportunities and they did the same thing. England arrived, they did the same thing to England. That is what we need to be going to. That's where the world of T20 is moving to. And these stats should not just be glossed over. These stats tell you a story, a massive story about guys who can score at a very destructive strike rate. And that's what you want them to be. I do not want them to change at all. You kind of need to just let that ball be. You just chase that ball around the park. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I didn't see any details of the article, but Anrich Nortje was quoted as saying, "We are creating an avenue for Mpaka, Brevis, and Luandre to lead into the Proteas setup." Now, what that pathway is, I don't know because it didn't specify in the article, but that to me is good. I mean, it's obvious. Of course, it's obvious. All three are clearly good enough to play for South Africa. But the fact that there is knowledge that those three are our golden nuggets, our golden nuggets at the moment that need to be cherished and need to be given a pathway to the national side is a good thing. Because what I don't want is one or two of them going, you know what, I quite like this T20 circus thing. I'm not going to go the international way. I'm going to go the franchise way. Which could be interesting to see
if any of these guys get picked up by IPL teams. Obviously, Devalt wasn't selected in the auction. Luandre wasn't in the auction. And so it'll be interesting to see should there be any injuries if they get picked up or they get taken that side on some apprenticeship. Well, you know how these IPL teams do. Yeah. Bowling. The only name missing here is Gwena Mapaka. But I'll give you the top 10 bowlers in the Betway SA20. Marco Jansen with 19 wickets. 4 for 13 best figures, and an economy rate of 7.14. He bowled incredibly well. Started the final a little shaky, but he brought it back really, really nicely in the end. Hardest for Yoon, to my 14 wickets. He came in as an injury replacement to help JSK. 4 for 24, 7.93 economy rate. And third, Liam Dawson, 14 wickets with an economy rate of 6.92. Mujib ur Rahman, 14 wickets as well from Paul. His economy rate is 8.08. Richard Gleeson, another 14 wicket man. His economy rate was 6.77. He was sensational this tournament. Unbelievable. Noor Ahmed from Durban's Super Giants. I like that. Durban's Super Giants. He played 10 matches, took 13 wickets, and an economy of 6.91. He is someone that Durban Super Giants need to build around. He needs to come back next year for them to be anywhere competitive. Kagiso Rabada, 12 wickets, 6.53. Good to see KG up there. And that economy rate is something to smile about for Proteas supporter looking at the Champions Trophy. Lutosi Pamla, another name you haven't heard in a while. He's a Protea, if you're wondering. Took 12 wickets in 9 games, 8.27 economy rate, but his wicket taking was really important at the top for JSK. Rashid Khan took 12 wickets as well with an economy rate of a flat 7. And then Corbin Bosch, who's on his way to Pakistan, took 11 wickets and a economy rate of 8.68. That's my worry with his bowling. That's always been my thing. He may be pacey, but it can go for runs. But this time he took a lot of wickets and he had a great tournament. Tim, when you look at this list, blast from the past. Hardest for Yoon, Luto Sapamla, who wasn't selected. But you can see where it's going, right? It's a high top class opening bowler, and then you have some really good spinners. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the formula to win SA20. The only person who's missing is Trent Bolt, but I think Trent got about like 10 wickets in this tournament, but he was really good in terms of an economy rate. He was just unbelievable.
The only slight, because we look at South African players, having international players means that we are the second best T20 competition in the world, and it's very important. But from a South African perspective, it's a little bit of a concern that the only South African under 30 is Luther Sapamla in the top 10. That for me is a slight concern. I'm delighted he's back. I'm delighted that his injuries seem to be a thing of the past. Mm-hmm. But ideally, you'd like 1 or 2 more South Africans in there, in and around that. But I am being a little bit picky because there are some international stars there of incredible recognition.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, that's the thing about the SA20, right? You will spend money on an international top class batter, a top class bowler, a top class spinner, because we don't have a lot of spinners who are top class. I think George Linder's going to go for a lot of money in the mega auction that's coming up later this year. But then on top of that, but either way, he's not on this list, right? It kind of gives you a sense of where our spinners are, right? We don't have a frontline top class spinner in that 10, right? The other thing is that if you look at the fast bowlers under 30, Miguel Pretorius didn't have a great tournament. Othniel Bartman is on the precipice of 30, but I'll consider him on the inside of 30. He came into his own towards the back end of the tournament, but didn't start off really well. Oguhle didn't get game time. And then you look at the youngster, Gwena Mapaka. Gwena's issue is that they never bowled him with another senior fast bowler. But that's a Paul question, right? You go with one guy who's just going to be like the workhorse as your fast bowler, and then you just go with bits and skillful bowlers, skill bowlers, right? Andile, Dan Khalim, and all of that. And so it's a big worry, right? And obviously we saw Gideon Peters, but Gideon Peters is also quite up there in age, right? But he had a good last couple of weeks in the SA20. So from guys who can bowl 150 or who can bowl fast medium, it wasn't a great tournament for South African bowlers. And obviously with all the injuries, right, we would have loved to see Nandre and Gerald at the Wanderers together in a tandem. We couldn't get that. And so you have that situation. Anrich Nortje, he's above 30, but that's where we're worried. But I think maybe in the next mega auction, you'll see the likes of Tristan Lees come through. Luto will probably get a proper contract, and you can build on that, right? And so that's the thing. Remember, these contracts are for 3 years, and so this is the third year season is done. So next season we're gonna do it all over again. Teams might look completely different, which is good. You want to keep parity. You can't have the same team win it all the time, and so that's going to be quite interesting to see how the teams manage that a lot more. But I do think international stars will kind of stay with the teams unless if they want to go into the auction. If I'm a guy who had a great season, I'm going into the auction. If I'm a guy who had a great 2 years but didn't have a great third season, I'm also going to the auction. I'm talking to you, Hanno Clausen. And the likes of that. But okay. Anyway, let's go to the MVPs. Then we'll just talk about some players that maybe have disappointed us. MVP rankings. These are the rankings on the Betway SA20 website of the players who were the MVP. There was only one man's name here, and that was Marco Jansen. He had got 179 points, about 36 more points than the next guy. He was sensational in the tournament, bowling and batting. Top leading bowler in wickets, and then he contributed with the bat when his team needed him. Ryan Rickleton in second with 143 MVP points. Don't ask me how you calculate the MVP points, but you can see for YouTube listeners, there's numbers to their batting, bowling, and the fielding. Devil Brevis, 142 points as the best young player of the tournament. George Linder coming in fourth with 141 points. Not the best bowling, but his batting was above average, and I think that is something that we need to consider going forward from a national team perspective. Luandre Pretorius in fifth, just purely batting and fielding on 140 points. Aiden Markram, 127 points in sixth with some of his bowling and some fielding there. Donovan Ferreira, 122 points. He's someone who had a great tournament with the ball as well. Mujib Rahman, 110 points, and Rassie van der Dussen with 108 points, and Liam Dawson in 10th with 104 points. Good to see a lot of South Africans up there and a lot of the young ones in the MVP rankings, which kind of helps, build brands and get guys to show that obviously there is South African talent here, and it's the guys who are the Proteas, which is also very good.
Indeed. I suppose you sort of touched on the fact that there were some individuals that were slightly disappointed us. Is that what you would like to?
No, that's the next one we're going to go through, right? So let's talk about the players who disappointed you in this tournament.
Okay, so I'm gonna stick it mostly to the batters because.
Mm-hmm.
Although I did say to touch on the fact that we're not enough South African bowlers at the top 10. When you look down the list, a lot of them actually didn't get a lot of game time, so that was also problematic. People like Keith Dudgeon and various other people on clearly didn't play, and that's a huge disappointment. But for me, the ones that I want to focus on are Mitchell van Buren, Lewis de Ploy, and Riley Versailles for different reasons. So Mitchell and Lewis for me are at the time of their careers, particularly Lewis, where you've got to deliver. You get picked for a franchise. You get picked for a tournament like this. This is where you show us that you've got something. This is where you show us you've got the bit between your teeth. When Joe Root left, that was the moment for Mitchell to go, okay, it's my time. I haven't contributed, but these two games, these two playoff games, are going to be crucial. If we want to get in the final, this is the time for me. There's a player there, but I think his strike rate for the tournament was less than 100, and I think that for his talent is poor. And then I think this is going to go more towards the future. I think we need to move away from some of the stalwarts of South African cricket that have been around a long time. They need to be replaced. So people like Ingram, people like Riley, fantastic players. I don't think they have the star quality that SA20 asked for at the moment. They're with the careers where they need to go without being competitions that are less good. That's just where they are in their careers. In my
so you're saying they must go to that ILT20 in Dubai?
Please, we will take. There are plenty of guys that that have something about them that deserve a crack at this level. They've had their time. They've had their time in the sun. They've had some good performances over the last 3 years. I think it's now time to come up with something. We had 3 seasons now, 3 good seasons. Let's move afresh with a fresh talent coming through. Give a couple of slots to, like you said last week, at the 19 players. Give a couple of slots at the 19 players to come through. Give them game time. Give them the space to show that they are where they need to be.
Yep. And for me, it's giving guys like Mikhail Prince a chance, Senokwane a chance. Guys who weren't selected in SA20 but would do really well at SA20. And also some of the guys who were sitting on the bench, some of the youngsters, right? Keegan Leon Cachet sat on the bench for the whole most of the tournament, and he proved that he could play at this level. Steve Stolk as well. If you want to give guys like that a chance to come through and to play. And so for that is my disappointments are slightly different. I think if you ask Tristan Stubbs, he'd be like he had an okay tournament. He didn't have a tournament that he blew everyone away. He had moments, and at times it was what his team needed. But you want a player of his caliber to be able to always step up and be in the conversation for player of the tournament. I don't know what happened since he came back from Bangladesh. He's been a slightly different player from a batting perspective. Maybe it's because he got dropped in the ODIs. But yeah, it's just that disappointed me because I thought he would light it up. You can't let these youngsters show you what you have shown us. We know what potential he has, and we're just expecting more from him. Lars Klusner, I was disappointed in him. Just a really not so great coaching job. The talent was there, just couldn't put it all together. And that was it. Keshav Maharaj disappointed me a lot. It's kind of like Keshav's reminding us that actually we had our doubts in limited overs and they were taken away, but now they're coming back. Shamsi as well. That was my disappointment. I thought he would want to take the mantle from Imran Tahir, not let Imran Tahir be the frontline spinner for the JSK. He didn't get a lot of game time, but it was largely because Tahir's still Tahir, which is wild. Miguel Pretorius.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And Miguel Pretorius was just disappointed. I thought maybe this was we're looking for fast bowlers, dude. Guys who can bowl 150, take wickets. Come on. Let's, show us. Also with the bat. But yeah. And that was the tournament. Okay. Tim, we've done the 3rd season of SA20. What's one thing you would improve on, keep, and let go of in the tournament?
Interesting. I'm not sure what I would. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure what I would get rid of, per se. Except to say that for me, the biggest improvement for me would be to have the second qualifier. Yeah, the eliminator, second qualifier, and the final all on the same day. I think that would be a fantastic. Make it an actual cricket day, a day at the cricket, and have it the entire day. That would, for me, and obviously have it on the weekend. Obviously, have it on a Saturday, or Friday.
Finals day.
Finals day. It works brilliantly for the Blast in England. I think it would work fantastically here. I don't want to change the format at all. Leave the format as it is. The format as it is works perfectly with the eliminators and the qualifiers. They work perfectly. So the one qualifier you have on a different day, because you can't fit four fixtures in one day, but you have the three in one day. That would be fantastic for me. The other thing would be, and I know this isn't specifically answering your questions, but it does worry me slightly, is the pitches. The pitches are not going to improve next year. They're not suddenly going to get better. They're not suddenly going to become faster. They're not suddenly going to become better for T20 cricket. They are going to stay at what they are this season and potentially get even slower. We are getting drop-in pitches, so I think that improvement is going to come in a couple of years. It's not going to happen this season coming. And that is a slight worry for me, because I've seen with the other competitions, if you start losing A-list players, your competition takes a dive. We've seen it with the Big Bash. We've seen it with the PSL. We've seen it with the Caribbean Premier League. They start really well first couple of years. They get all the A-list players, and then for whatever reason, they then move. And I think potentially that might be a reason. They might go, and I don't watch the ILT20. I've never watched it, but I'm pretty sure those pitches are ideally suited for T20 cricket, and they might go towards that way. So I think that's something just to keep an eye out for, because at the moment, we are the second best T20 competition in the world right now. But that doesn't mean we're going to hold on to that status for forever.
No, I get you. I think for me, tournament-wide, I think what they can improve on is definitely the pitches. You need better pitches. It's something that, because you want runs. You want fans come here for runs. They don't come for wickets. It's only the pure cricketing nerds who want wickets. And then what they can do, so that's what they can improve. What they can keep is the stadium atmosphere, the stadium vibe. They've done really, really well in creating that hype and vibe, and I think it's going to continue over time. It's a great day out for families. It's really awesome to do that even midweek. And now we're starting on Boxing Day. So imagine that week from Boxing Day to New Year's Eve, to a point where we might even get a game on New Year's Eve. That would be insane. A day-night game on New Year's Eve. That's a party. It's a party in itself, right? And then you can have we can go into the new year, people can hang around, that type of vibe. I don't know, be creative, but they've been creative, and I think that's what I like about what they've done here. And then, so if that improved, what they can do away with, let's see, what can they do away with? Just bad picks in the auction. Trust the South African Domestic League. Trust our players. Don't think. Stop picking because your friends told you so-and-so is good. There's tape. There's video. There's lots of video on CSA T20. There's stats and guys who are not there should be there. And that's my only cry, is hopefully in this next auction, we'll get more representation across the board from SA, from the domestic sides, not just necessarily the pro-tier players and the players that have a good reputation, but just players who've actually done stuff. and put down the runs. That my thing is that for me is something I wish we could get more of. And yeah, you can see it as more black players. You can see it as more. I just want to see some of the guys who are doing incredibly well in domestic cricket getting a chance here. That's how you get fans to come watch One Day Cup, because now you're starting the One Day Cup to next week or this weekend, and
15th.
You don't have the Proteas. So what's the incentive for fans to come and watch? The SA20 gives you the opportunity to highlight those players in the domestic system in order for you then to continue that relationship with them and watch them in thinking. Just how Luandre came through, just how Ryan's now popped, now he's a Protea. Ruben Hammond for one, right? If I liked Ruben Hammond's batting, I'd go watch him at Northwest. If he's coming to Newlands, I'd go watch him because he's very good. He's box office. And that's what you want. But it showcased that, and that was a good thing for SA20 as well, just some of the guys, but you just want more. I don't want new teams. I think the mega auction must be a proper auction. You must scour, look under the rocks. You've seen it. The owners and the teams have now seen enough of South African cricket that they can actually now pick a lot more guys in domestic and give them that, instead of picking guys that they heard were good or did something.
Yeah. Just to touch. What happens there is what's happening around the world. Somebody leaves, Joe Root leaves, they need a quick replacement. That's where you need the South African guy to come in. Now, I'm not gonna disparage the fellow that they brought in because he clearly is a talent. But I could see very early on that he wasn't gonna like these pitches. A South African batter as a replacement likes our pitches, knows our pitches, knows our conditions. They are there. There are guys that you can play. We just be careful. As you say, I think more representation from South African cricket. That's what we want. That's what we want. That's our product. Our product is a South African T20 competition with a magnificent overseas talent. It's not an ILT20. ILT20 is a very different kettle of fish.
Yeah. Okay, Tim. Yeah, that brings us to the end of our show. We'll be back sometime in the week if we've got an interview, which is why you must like and subscribe on YouTube so you know when we go live. So too for those on audio at Full Coda Podcast and Apple Podcast and Spotify, you'll get a notification when we post a recording. And please remember, please do buy some coffee at buymeacoffee.com. We've got lots of cricket this year, lots of finals to go to, meaning Champions Trophy and World Test Championship and 50 over Cricket World Cup. We're going to make finals. We just need, you can support us and we'll try to figure out how to get there and give you firsthand information around that. But outside of that, for myself and Tim, it's goodbye and lesale kakagiso.